Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sid's Foodcast, the food podcast where me and my guests talk about food, our love for food, and everything in the name of food. This is your host, Sid, and welcome to the show. For today's episode, we have Paolo, and we talked about his pescatarian diet, where he dabbled with vegetarianism, tea culture, and the tea ceremony. I hope you guys enjoy the show. But can you tell me, man? I'm recording, by the way. Can you just tell me what was your last meal before the podcast? It's 6:50 right now.
My actual last meal before the podcast, I got lazy and I just got pizza. So I'm gonna talk about the one I had before that.
Pizza's fine, man. Is it like fast food pizza? Is it like a local
Yeah, I
spot?
literally just I literally just got really lazy today because of the weather, and I stayed in all day and I ordered some Pizza Hut. So
Oh, not a
I'm not
fan of
gonna talk
pizza.
about that. Everyone knows. Everyone knows what Pizza Hut is. Yeah, but sometimes you just get that itch.
Yeah, well, I got a Domino's itch. I don't get the Pizza Hut itch.
To
I
each
like,
their own. But yeah,
yeah.
that's fair.
Maybe you like very thick crusts though. I'm not a fan of that. Do you
I
like
don't know
that?
what it is. Honestly, I think it's just that they put crack in the dough instead of flour. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was my unsponsored shill.
Then
So
can you tell
before
me an
so
interesting, what was the most interesting last meal that you've had?
okay, so everyone's had pizza probably. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. It's the
Hmm.
delivery food. It's the delivery food to end all delivery food.
Hmm.
So let's not delve more into that. The other day, I went to a great seafood spot here in Eugene, the Fisherman's Market, and I had some lingcod fish and chips, which is great.
Oh, cod always works, but I heard
Cod
that
is
it's
great.
it's overly fished though.
Yeah, so that's the great thing. Lingcod is a lot. It's pretty sustainable because it's a Pacific Coast fish, and
Oh.
the fisheries out here on the Pacific are some of the best managed out there, especially up in Alaska. Oregon does things pretty well. I'm pretty proud to say. And yeah, the lingcod fishery has the advantage of not being historically fished for centuries,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not quite as threatened as true cod are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't
And
know
can
the
I just
different types
say,
of cods.
yeah, no, I don't think I do either. I didn't even know that they were different until I Wikipedia'd it.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, lingcod's a good fish.
Mm-hmm.
It's firm. It's got a good flavor to it. It's like fishy, but not in the way that like people say they hate it when
Mm-hmm.
things are
It's
fishy.
fishy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you eat it and you're like, I'm eating a fish, not eating a stack of wet paper towels.
Oh, but I'm a big fan of fish and chips. I've had different sorts. I've had fish and chips here. I've
Hmm.
had fish and chips in the Philippines as well. It's just different.
Yeah.
Um, I forgot what's that term? Like when you open the fish and chips. Oh, it looks like angel's wings. If you kind of open. That's what they
It
call.
sure
Yeah,
does.
yeah. Like like it's not like pearly white, but it's flaky. And then it looks like angel's feathers or something. It looks really.
Ah,
But if I'm gonna have a legit fish and chips spot, then hopefully it would be like an English person who would make a fish and chip spot. Then
for
I
sure.
think,
Because I mean, you can't beat that. You can't beat that beer batter.
yeah. But I just learned recently that fish and chips is not like well, it is a big thing in the UK, but curry is much more bigger than fish and chips.
Oh
Like,
yeah, which is interesting when you get into it. When you think
mm-hmm,
about like the colonial roots that made that happen.
mm-hmm, right, right, and then that has become the most important, like not the most important, but the most well-known thing. If you go to London, it's not there's more curry spots than fish and chip spots.
Yeah,
So,
and I
yeah,
mean,
I might be
and
wrong, but that's what I researched. But
huh. I
yeah.
mean, and curry's interesting because it spans literally like the whole Eurasian landmass. You've got
Mhm.
like people in London doing it their style, and then of course you've got like it originates out in like the Indian subcontinent, and then
Mhm.
like the Japanese have their own whole way of doing it, which I know nothing about.
Everyone has some sort of curry,
Yeah,
just because of whatever spices are available, then they use that one. And if it's spicy, and then if it's like it's not soupy, it's like gravy kind of consistency, then
Yeah.
maybe we can call it curry. I'm not sure
Yeah,
what's
like where do you draw the curry line?
the yeah, what
Is
do
a
we call
question that you should have someone else answer because
yeah.
I'm not qualified to talk about that.
Oh man, that's totally fine. And a lot of people have talked about their hot takes, even if they're not qualified. So, do you have any hot takes about food, even if you don't have the qualifications for it?
Hot takes on food.
Yeah, I have an example. A lot of people had beef when I say, I don't know if you. Oh wait, have you tried Sangyup Salamat?
I have been a pescatarian for 11 years.
Oh, 11
So,
years? Have you
yeah,
heard of Sangyup Salamat?
I have.
Yeah, so a lot of people apparently like it, but I hate that. I hate Sangyup Salamat so much because it's just barbecue. It's not Korean barbecue.
Is it not? Okay, let me turn the
It's
questions back on
frayed.
the hose. What's
Okay.
what's going on there?
Oh, basically, it's that's why it's called Sangyup Salamat. It's supposedly a Korean barbecue spot. It has K-pop videos playing on the background. It has like everything that looks like a Korean restaurant, you know. But then when you eat the Sangyupsal, it's just like it's barbecue, like Filipino barbecue,
So
you
everything's
know.
Korean but the food.
Everything's Korean but the food, and apparently you don't even see a lot of Koreans in Sangyupsal.
That is unfortunate.
That's and people love it because I think it's just like it's they changed the flavors to to kind of um like probably make it more Filipino,
Yeah.
to make sure that the masses could appreciate like you know Korean barbecue. But that's why it's like I feel like this is not Korean barbecue. It's good food, but it's not Korean barbecue.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Probably my hot take is that I was pescatarian for 11. I've been pescatarian for 11 years. 2 of those years I was straight up full vegetarian, and it was very hard to do that because I think the Philippines might be one of the hardest countries in Southeast Asia to be a vegetarian.
Yes. I don't think that's a hot take. I think everyone loves the meats.
Yeah, but I will offset that by saying that that's pretty nice because if you look at a lot of the Filipino street food, they're making sure that like a lot of animal parts that would go to waste are not going to waste.
Yeah, we're
So
the
there's a lot of respect there.
least the least kosher country.
I can imagine. And I don't know if this is gonna sound insensitive or not, but I'm kind of glad that I'm not the only one who has problems picking food out there.
Right, but you can still work, if you are into that. But
Yeah.
did you decide it because of health reasons or belief
No, it
or
was all ethical stuff. Like you know me, I love the animals,
Mhm.
and a couple of years ago, back in 2009, my parents were taking a while in a cafe, and I got bored. And unfortunately, a PETA magazine found its way into my young, impressionable head.
Uh-huh.
So then a couple Google searches that should have been parentally sanctioned later. I walk out of the bedroom and I'm like, Mom, Dad, I'm a vegetarian now.
And then
And
what
to my
happened?
credit, I stuck to that fairly well for 2 years before I was like, nope, I can't do this anymore. I'm eating shrimp.
And
But
then
no,
that
it was great though because as a kid I was never really much of a seafood person, so the whole
Mhm.
pescatarian thing and being vegetarian really did force me to like look outside of my comfort zone for seafood
Uh-huh.
and
And
for
then,
like just suitable food in general. Like
mhm.
I don't think my palate would be as like wide as it is now if it weren't for
Mhm.
like those
Right.
couple of years.
Because you're forced to explore with what you have. So that's
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
seafood. So I'm not sure if you were like a picky eater back then, but again, if you are in a kind of a restrictive, not necessarily restrictive, it's not as restrictive as like vegans, but
Oh yeah.
you get to play around with what you have.
Yep.
And that's the concept with any type of restriction in general. Like if you are like vegan, or if you're vegetarian or pescatarian or anything, you don't just, the the basic idea is, you just eat fish and vegetables, that's it. You can play it around, make
Yep.
something make something that's really out of the box or something.
Yep. And it you really gotta like hunt to find the spots that'll scratch that itch for you when it
Mhm.
arises.
Mm. Well, my wife was pescatarian back then, but now she kind of just eats everything. I
That's fair.
did, yeah, I did try being vegetarian for a month. I stuck with it for a month just because I was bored.
Uh-huh.
So, but I just can't, like, for me, I just can't have a restrictive diet, but I am aware of what I eat. Like that's just basically the rule for me. Like if I
Right.
eat this, like I know what's gonna happen. If I eat like a whole like 3 Big Macs or whatever fast food, I'm gonna have diarrhea after.
Right.
Like so am I going to take the risk? Or some sort any kind of the decision when it comes to food, I will be aware, oh, is this sustainably, is this produce or fish or whatever, made make sure that it's sustainable or something like that,
Yeah.
or and at least just being aware of it, because I am a lover of food.
Yeah. And we
And
want to make sure that whatever food we have is still around.
mm-hmm.
That was
And
part of why I went pescatarian in the first. Oh, sorry. What were we saying?
oh, no, 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 sorry, it's okay. That's just basically knowing that you can appreciate everything.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah, and making sure that the next generation can also still appreciate what we have,
Right. And
and
yeah, that's part of why I went pescatarian in the first place was because I spent a lot of time in aquariums when I was a kid, and
Mhm,
like aquariums for the last couple of years they have been like the really big they've been lifting the banner for like sustainable seafood and stuff. They've been spreading all the awareness. Like most of the aquariums these days will only like serve sustainably harvested seafood. Like I don't know if you've ever had the time to go all the way up to Monterey,
no, not
but
yet.
Monterey Bay Aquariums like really they developed a whole program from the ground up just to like
Mhm,
work with fishery scientists and like tell you what the best choices you can make are.
mhm,
Like they'll tell you what the best methods for certain fish are. Like
mhm,
if you're eating salmon, like farmed Atlantic isn't exactly the best way to go because they're like antibiotics that they use. There are reports of escape from like farms that have caused
mhm,
ecological damage. But if you're like harvesting wild salmon from the Pacific Northwest, for example, usually it's going to be a little bit more expensive on your end, but it's also just like you're getting a cleaner fish
mhm. They say it's really,
ecologically.
really good. I haven't tried it though.
Yeah. But also, you got to admit, sometimes the Atlantic salmon, it's just a lot softer. So it's a guilty pleasure for me. And if I do source it, I try to like make sure it's sourced from like a farm or from an area that's doing it
Hmm.
right.
Right.
It's never going to be the best, but also, we're not perfect people.
Yeah, and still, it's still salmon. At the very end of the day, there's definitely high quality salmon, but just because from coming from the knowledge of preservation and making sure everything is sustainably done,
Yep.
you get quality food at the
Yeah.
very end of the day. It's not like don't eat fish because that's physically impossible for
Exactly.
people. We're not gonna stop you. Like, if I'm a
Yeah.
scientist and like, and there's this problem, we're not gonna stop you from eating fish, because that's basically, you can't do that because businesses will run dry. Diets are physically, altered.
Yeah.
And but because of the background and the information that we have, we get to learn how to make it sustainable and
Yeah.
ultimately make the taste better.
There you go.
Yeah, and for my end, it's just my idea of just making sure that, for selfish reasons, I just want to try everything that I can. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not an adventurous person, but I am an adventurous eater.
There you
Is
go.
what, yeah. So if that is my kind of like, I'm not really like I'm the opposite of a picky eater. I'll definitely say if I don't like it, but I will
Yeah,
definitely try it once.
there you
Except
go.
if it's like, except it's like if it's endangered or something, I'm not gonna try that.
Appreciated as
Yeah.
a marine biology student. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that disclaimer.
Yeah. So if it's exotic, sure, I'll try that one. And weird, definitely I'll try that one. But if it's endangered, then I won't try that. You
Yeah.
know, because there's a difference between if it's weird, exotic, or if it's actually endangered, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's my line for that. I'll try anything and everything except if it's like, you know, poison or or it's endangered.
Well, in line with that, I do have a couple seafood suggestions for you.
Hmm.
There's just a whole bunch of fish that were never on. They were on my radar for a while, but they were never on my menu before I came out to Oregon. Because
What?
honestly, this coast out here on the U.S. has a lot of real weird fish, and a lot of them cook up real good.
Really?
Yeah, rockfish is one of them. I never expected to really like rockfish because honestly, they're not the prettiest fish in the ocean
I think I tried
conventionally.
rockfish.
I think they're gorgeous, but yeah, they're really cool. I like them. I've only had them a couple times, but like they're pretty firm. Um, Clean flavor, hooks up pretty good. I want to try doing one of these days. I want to try doing it salt baked. You know, where you
Mm-hmm.
just like build up that whole like little salt
Uh-huh.
oven around the fish. I tried that over Christmas last year with some branzino, and it turned out fantastic.
Oh my God. Just the cooking methods with fish.
They get
Or,
out there, yeah.
yeah. I
Like
mean,
depending on what part of the world you're in, yeah.
yeah,
It extends as far as just not cooking the fish.
right. And even for us in the Philippines, when we talk of fish, it's basically with soup based or fried. But when I did my research with Malaysia, with India, there's a lot of fish
Yeah,
curries out there. Like
there really are.
I've never heard or seen like that kind of idea. I haven't physically seen it, but yeah, like it's really interesting. You know,
Yeah.
spicy fish. That's
And
not like, you know, that's been drenched with curry sauce. I want to try that one. Sounds really
yeah, I've had fish
good.
curry. I haven't had like authentic fish curry, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's a good one. Anyway, another good one for you. I don't know if you've tried sablefish, other names, black
No.
cod.
Oh,
It's
black cod. I think I did. I
Yeah,
think I've
black
tried.
cod's some of the best stuff I've had out there because like it just cooks up so soft and tender. Like they literally call it butterfish. It's that good.
Because it's like butter.
Yeah, man, like it's amazing stuff.
And it's good, you know, because you get to explore what you have, you know, because you don't eat poultry or meat,
Yep,
so you get to figure out with what you have.
yeah.
Man, yeah, you
And
get.
rockfish and black cod both very sustainable. They take
Mhm.
good care of them out here on the Pacific coast.
Man, that's some probably one of the things that I will definitely have to try if I go to Oregon. You know, I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
honestly,
they
I'm
have it
pretty. Yeah,
here,
you could
but
find it out there, honestly.
yeah, but I only eat with what we have. So like my dad does
That's
the
fair.
groceries, so
I mean, then again, you are out there on the beach.
uh-huh, and he just fishes some of them. Like
Yeah,
yeah, and he has a
do a Yelp search for the closest fishmonger.
yeah, and he has a fishing license, so he can literally
Oh,
fish.
sick.
Yeah, so he can literally fish, and we have it for dinner.
Nice. There
Yeah,
you go.
I don't know where he fishes though, but yeah, you just get a permit. I think it's like a yearly permit for you to fish, and you can only fish certain types of fishes,
Yeah.
and then we eat it.
I mean,
It's
it's really interesting to me how much of a recreational aspect there is here in the States with when it comes to food. Like you
hmm
can fish, you can hunt, you can garden, and there's just such a like connection that you have to your food as a result.
right, because you're literally taking their lives, and it sounds so morbid, but it's also some sort of like appreciation to it.
Yeah.
I know, like I know like some Buddhists that are not vegetarian, that they pray over like the life of that they took,
Right.
whether it's like a plant or a fish or whatever. I don't know
Yeah.
if vegetarian Buddhists pray for the harvest. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but
Neither do I. No, but yeah. I think that was a big turning point for me too when I decided to like give up the whole vegetarian flag. It was just kind of one, I wanted to like reintroduce seafood to my diet because I wanted to like get more sustainable with it, and I felt like being vegetarian was mostly ethical, but part of it was also environmental. And I thought that the like most logical way to continue that, to like jump back into like consuming animal products,
Mhm.
was to do it in a way where like I had the resources to know whether what I'm eating is sustainable.
Right, man. But a quick question: if vegetarian, they eat dairy products, but if you're pescatarian, do you eat dairy products?
Yeah, I think it really differs with everyone, so I
Oh,
don't think you
okay.
can really like blanket it because there are some people who will eat like fish and stuff because it's fine with them, and they'll omit dairy, but sometimes it'll be more for health reasons. Sometimes it'll just be because like they're lactose intolerant or whatever.
Hmm.
And then some people will be fine with eating fish for ethical reasons, but won't be fine with like consuming dairy for certain reasons. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's like totally respectable.
Did you consume eggs when you were vegetarian?
Yeah, I can't live without like eggs and dairy. So vegan never crossed my mind. It was never on the radar. That being said though, I do enjoy a vegan meal every once in a while. We have a couple great vegan spots here in Eugene.
Because it's good, man. There's
Yeah,
some that are really, really good. I would say sometimes even better than meat.
right? They do some
Yeah.
wizardry with it.
I don't know how they do it, man, but I had a vegan burger. I mentioned this in a different podcast, and it's still so good, so flavorful that it's
Yeah.
still better than like burgers out there
Yeah.
using meat.
Because
I
I
don't
mean,
know how
there
to
are two
do it.
schools of veggie burger right now. There's the
Mm-hmm.
one that's like trying to be like there's one that's trying to be a veggie burger. So
Mm-hmm.
like it's a satisfying disc patty that you can fry up and put in a sandwich, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
bite into it, and you'll see the beans, you'll see like corn kernels or whatever it is, and you'll taste the spices, and you'll be like, yes, this is satisfying. But then there are the guys who are like, okay, we're gonna like Frankenstein this shit. And it works. I mean,
Yeah.
Impossible and Beyond, they're doing some like black magic stuff out there.
I don't know, man. When I ate the burger, the juices were flowing, and it was so good. It was like vegan cheese. It was just the texture
Yeah.
was there. It wasn't pretending to be meat, is what I'm saying. You
Yeah.
know, and it was just so good. It was a pub burger, so the patty was thick.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but it was so
There
good.
are the ones that will pretend to be meat and actually knock it out of the park,
Yeah,
though.
like
Like,
they're just trying to kind of imitate the flavor of meat, but there are others like you don't have to pretend that it's. We know it's not meat, but
yeah,
I'd still eat it.
it's just a disc-shaped piece of food that just happens to be made of beans or lentils or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that I've tried was a mushroom burger. Basically, it was just a huge mushroom, like a small plate, like that. I don't know what kind of mushroom it is,
Mm-hmm.
but like my dad just used one big mushroom and put onions and cheese, and it's so good.
The good
It's so
stuff.
good. I don't know what kind of mushroom it was, but it tasted like meat. For sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't like vegan. It wasn't made by like a vegan company, right? It was just a mushroom. I need
Yeah.
to know what kind of mushroom that is because it was so good.
Could have been a, honestly, who knows? Could have been a portobello. I don't know. Those are
Oh
like
no.
pretty thick and like, those have like
It's
a similar texture.
maybe it's just really big, like this big. I don't know if you can imagine that.
I
That
can
big.
imagine, yeah. I see some huge mushrooms around lately.
Yeah. It's just
Honestly, why not experiment with it? Go out, like, pick out some mushrooms next time you're out. I don't mean like go
it
into
could
the
be,
forest and pick some mushrooms because that can end
it could
very
be
badly.
yeah, that could be very
But like
poisonous.
if you're at like the farmers market and you see one of those like
Uh-huh.
mushroom stalls,
Hmm.
yeah, Be like, hey, which of these do you think someone would use in a burger?
Oh my gosh, I need to know what that is because it was so good. You know, it could beat out a minute burger any day or any cheap ass burger any day. But yeah, I why I wanted to jump in this conversation with you because you wanted to for people who don't know you, you are well with the background that you've said, you were very big with fish,
Yep.
to say the least. You know, and even your Instagram handle says so. You
Yeah.
know, so you're very very big with fish.
Follow me at Marine Biology.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
And
it's a dumb little username, but it's one that I haven't changed since 2016, so I stopped now.
and that was your college program in the Philippines, right? In San Carlos. What were you
Still is, yep.
studying? What
Marine
were you?
biology.
Marine biology, right? And
Yep.
now in Oregon, you're still
I'm
studying
wrapping it up. Yep.
marine biology. At least did the credits were
Oh, thank God. Yeah, most of them did.
uh-huh,
I've been doing a little work with like the with the various advising offices to get some of the credits like transferred where they need to be,
uh-huh,
but most of the credit itself did transfer over. Like they
uh-huh.
accepted it.
All
So
right.
like it's
Yeah.
just matching it up to certain things in the curriculum so that they can check off certain requirements as done.
That's
I'm
good, man.
not taking calculus again.
But yeah, so he, for people listening, he's very big on fish. That's just dumbing it down. But again, he has this huge, um, intimate, to say the least, intimate relationship when it comes to um, seafood, sea life,
You make me
sustainable.
sound like that guy from The Simpsons, Troy McClure.
No, but yeah, but and other thing that I do know about Paolo is when we were part of a spoken word group. So that's where I got to know him. And one interesting thing that he does, because he does a lot of things, was he posted something on Instagram about tea. So he decided to when we were talking about like what are the things that we could talk about in this podcast is we can talk about tea, and I did have one conversation with tea with in a
Oh,
previous podcast about tea ceremonies in general because he went to a Buddhist temple and he actually did a tea ceremony. Said it was excruciatingly boring, but
well,
but very very impactful. And it's he said it was very hard.
yeah.
It was very hard for him because I think the concept of it is to be in the moment.
Yeah. Would you know like whether this was like a Japanese style of like brewing or like China?
I know, I think it's Chinese.
Ah, okay, yeah, because honestly, yeah, Chinese Kung Fu style brewing, which has the same like etymology as Kung Fu.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually kind of funny because those are two very different things. Martial arts versus brewing tea, but
Right.
you have to have that same like control over your movement. You have
Mm-hmm.
to have that same just kind of mindfulness and like attention
Yes.
to what your body's doing in
Mm-hmm.
relation to like what
I
you're working with.
it's again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what he was saying was they do these things deliberately slow and taking as much time. It could take, I think it's like hours, because it's basically training the monkey off your mind. Or I don't know I forgot the expression of it. Our
Mhm.
mind is like, there's like a monkey inside our mind. It's like it's basically very very busy, and it's training to remove that busyness and being in the now. And that's
Right.
why like you feel so frustrated, like, oh, why is he pouring it so slow? And then you have a lot of thoughts in your mind, and then suddenly you're just focusing on what you're doing, and then you're in a state of bliss, I
Yeah.
assume. Yeah. And yeah, that's one discussion we had. And another discussion we had was how tea kind of started a lot of wars and colonialization and slavery in
Yeah.
general. So
Yeah.
a
Honestly,
lot
like
of people
even
died.
today, yeah, even today, there's a little bit of politicking going on with tea. especially in like over the Darjeeling tea that they produce in India, which is
Oh.
one of the best black teas that you'll ever
Hmm.
have.
Yes, so tea, a lot of people died because of tea. A lot of wars started because of tea. A lot of countries and territories they were colonized because of tea. So
Yeah, well, a lot of wars started because of oil, but it's still in our cars.
yeah. Right. And coffee. Yeah.
Were there
But
coffee wars?
there was a lot of
Oh well, I guess there's like even if it's not exactly
trades,
war, yeah,
you
there's a lot of
know.
like sketchy stuff going on with
Yeah, like
coffees.
the Dutch colonies were made because of coffee.
There you
Oh no,
go.
no, they brought coffee in Indonesia and although basically a lot in Africa and countries in Indonesia. Yeah, there
Yeah,
was still a lot of sketchy things going on with coffee as well.
it's a little bit of the opposite in regards to tea. Kenya is producing a lot of tea right now, and a lot of the really big farms and producers coming out of Kenya are like owned by the workers. They're
Oh,
organic,
that's good.
and they're out there producing some interesting stuff that people haven't had. There's a really interesting tea cultivar that's coming out of Kenya right now. It's purple tea,
Purple
and
tea?
it's
Oh.
partly oxidized. It's oxidized a little bit more than green tea, and the specific cultivar has like those pigments in it that when you squeeze a
Oh.
lemon or put some acid into it,
It
it goes
changes
from like
color?
yeah, it turns purpley.
Oh, nice. So I is it safe to assume you're big in tea and big on tea? Like you love
I
tea?
I think so. Yeah, I still have a lot to learn, but I think that's a lot of the fun.
Okay, so when did this interest start? Specifically the tea ceremony, the one that you
Ah,
posted. This
well,
was
I really
Japanese, right? This is Japanese
yeah,
tea.
the one that I was talking to you about
Hmm.
with the poetry guys was the Japanese tea ceremony. But I've never actually experienced that myself.
Hmm.
Um, I think my interest in tea really goes back to like 2016 when I just bought a couple samples of loose leaf while I was on vacation in Las Vegas.
Hmm.
Not the best place in the world to get your tea from, but it was good enough.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I got
Hmm.
home. And before that, I'd only ever done two kinds of tea: Starbucks ice or just out of a bag.
Hmm.
But
Lipton tea.
yeah, I bought a proper tea infuser and a tea pitcher. I learned a little bit. I have a buddy of mine who taught me a whole lot about tea, and I just kind of went from there. And
Mm.
over time, you kind of evolve from like the Teavana loose leaf, and you kind of just get into what you like
Hmm. And
because
then,
it's a big world of tea, and like
mhm.
everything's just kind of different.
Yeah, and tea, like, everywhere, every place all around the world has some sort of tradition or their own method when it comes to preparing tea.
Yep,
Even the word tea is, it's either tea or cha. So
yep.
that's.
And then you have like the herbal teas, which aren't technically tea at all, but that's
Oh, they're not tea, really?
the
Like,
word
oh, the one.
tea
Okay.
specifically should refer to just stuff that comes off the tea plant. So like white tea,
Oh.
green tea, black tea, oolong tea, and I guess
Hmm.
now purple tea. And
Hmm.
anything that you get out of it, out of a different plant, like chamomile, lavender, rooibos. I probably
Ginseng.
butchered that word. Yeah, stuff like that. It's an herbal infusion, or the really fancy word, if you want to get like vocabulary with it, is tisane.
Oh, and it's basically called tea because the methods and preparations is just like how you
Yeah,
do it.
it's hot leaf juice. So
Oh.
it's an interesting way of how language evolves.
Hot leaf juice. Why do I remember Uncle Iroh?
Yep.
This
I
isn't
mean,
tea. This is just hot leaf juice.
and that is technically something you could say about even the best cup of chamomile. It's not technically tea, it's hot leaf juice. But it's good hot leaf juice.
uh,
But yeah, I like to stick to like the camellias myself, just because
oh.
like out of just the same type of plant, you could just get so many different like
Hmm.
flavor profiles, just depending on like how you treat the leaves, whether they're on the plant or already picked off it. Like
Yeah, and
Japanese green tea, it's great because people flock to it because it just gives you that floral
it's
kind of like
different.
yeah. But if you
Matcha,
treat it wrong, like it'll taste
it's gonna
like
be bitter.
it won't just go bitter on you. It'll taste like seaweed and lawn clippings.
Uh-huh.
Not in the fun way.
Okay.
No, and
I
like
am a big fan of matcha.
yeah, definitely. Matcha is a great one. And matcha's really what you think about when you talk about the Japanese tea ceremony.
Mm-hmm. Because
And the
it's so
Japanese
green. The
it's
color is
gorgeous.
fun.
Gorgeous, yeah.
Just looking at the color, like ooh, it's either you love it or you think that it's vomit. You know.
I know I've never really had strong opinions on matcha, but I
I
mean,
know I know a lot of
it's
people are
good stuff.
matcha lovers, but I know someone who's actually a matcha hater. Like
Hmm.
when like they don't like matcha Kit Kats, matcha tea, anything matcha. They feel like it's weird. I didn't ask why, but they don't like it.
Yeah.
I like matcha. I like chai a lot. I've tried some authentic chai. I love it. I've tried Starbucks chai. I still love it. You know, it's
Yeah.
okay.
It'll scratch the itch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, chai is great because I mean, chai is just another word for tea.
Yeah. It just derived from cha.
Yep, there you go.
And even here in the Philippines, cha,
It's
it's
chai,
from.
yeah. Because I mean, a lot of stuff in the Philippines, it's either going to come from a Chinese or Spanish root,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and in this case, it's the former. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. And um, we're gonna go to why you did the Japanese tea ceremony, but I remembered how there's a lot of tea cultures out there, very, very big tea cultures, because it could be for religious reasons or like spiritual reasons, like the Japanese,
Ah, yeah.
the Chinese.
Actually, that is a good point for me to
Uh-huh.
like jump into something really interesting that I like about tea and just how it kind of like connects to the human soul.
Hmm.
Because I think that the Chinese tea ceremony is really about mindfulness. So the brewer is getting a lot out of it, and like also the people who are like being served the tea.
Hmm.
And I think that that's a similar theme that you find in the Japanese tea ceremony. But the Chinese tea ceremony places, to my knowledge, I could be getting this completely wrong.
Hmm.
But like this is something I've experienced because I've never actually like witnessed or partaken in a Japanese tea ceremony, but I've seen a lot of like Chinese gong fu brewings.
Hmm.
Um, they're very tight with their brewing times. It's gong fu. It's hard work. I think is like
Hmm.
a very rough translation from the Chinese. But when you look at the Japanese tea ceremony with like everything it involves, the matcha whisk, that little
Hmm.
water, that little scoop for the hot water, there's an element to it of self-sacrifice and service.
And it's
And
elegant. It looks beautiful.
exactly.
Just it looks just so difficult.
Yeah. And it's a right in and of itself. So
Hmm.
that's something really interesting is that one of my favorite tea facts is that when the practice of Christianity was banned in Japan,
Hmm.
Japanese Christians who were like practicing underground or like couldn't afford to like to be prosecuted for that would
And
actually
die.
perform yeah they
Hmm.
would perform the Japanese tea ceremony for each other as sort of a proxy rite in place of the Eucharist because
Oh,
it has such similar themes of like
great.
self-service and giving part of yourself to
Hmm.
the people who you're with.
Hmm. Instead of the body and blood of Christ with bread and wine, it could be tea.
Yeah,
You know, tea could be Jesus Christ.
yeah,
In the Holy Eucharist. um, yeah, and that's just one aspect to it. There could
exactly.
be religious, spiritual, and then we have big tea cultures due to colonialization and basically exploitation.
Yeah.
Like from the UK back then. They're very big. It's a big tea drinking country, and that's why
Hmm.
we have it's there's always tea time in the UK. So you have that, and then and I always go back to the Philippines and how I can't really pinpoint of what our tea culture is. Ultimately, the only thing that I have is a milk tea culture. That's the one that we have,
Yeah.
but not necessarily a tea culture. Um, I think we're more of a coffee country though than we
Definitely.
tea.
And I really appreciate a lot of the stuff that goes into coffee, but
Hmm.
I don't. It gives me indigestion, so I've never been able to explore it too much. And frankly, I'm happy with my tea. That's my main caffeine fix.
Right, and that's again just putting it into perspective of what we have in the country is. I think it's more on what we have and what's available. I think coffee was just bigger
Yep,
there, even if there was a lot of Chinese influence. Coffee was just bigger
for
because
sure.
I don't know. Maybe it came from Indonesia and then it transferred to the Philippines because we have now Barako. But
Yeah,
I wish that we have some sort of, I don't know, like maybe just like some sort of spiritual connection to tea, but the only connection we have is serenity and
I
chai.
I know for a fact that there are a couple of independent distributors of loose leaf in the Philippines who are
Mm,
really who are trying to change the game as far as that's concerned.
that's good. All
But
right.
yeah, that just takes a couple like Google searches, loose leaf tea near me, etc.
Yeah, I just think that we are just a coffee drinker, not necessarily a
I
tea.
think so, and I think that the milk tea and tea are two very different drinks.
Yeah, and I think it's in its own game. It's its own category.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
hopefully we can get milk tea right too, because.
yeah, I've had some very good boba in my time.
Mm-hmm.
Although a lot of people who hear this might crucify me for it, but I was in Taiwan for a few days last year, and
Mm-hmm.
I did not take a sip of milk tea, but I had a lot of like loose leaf.
Really, you're in milk tea country, man.
Well, yeah, but if you they are milk tea country because they're also tea country, and
Yeah,
I gotta
that's
say,
true.
Taiwan produces some of the finest tea I have ever had. Oh, Taiwan
Oh
produces some of the finest tea I have ever had.
man.
Like this mug just now before I got on the call, this was just full of a Taiwanese tea guanyin oolong, which is just a wonderful tea. It's lightly roasted. It's got little notes of like, it's almost like coffee. It's got a little bit of like raisin notes and like
Hmm.
almost a chocolate undertone to it. It's great.
Oh man, I should expand my tea knowledge. Again, I appreciate a good matcha. I appreciate chai. I like if it's like from a bag. I really like jasmine, Earl Grey, the
Jasmine
typical
is
stuff.
wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, just
Something
the
I like to
smell.
recommend to people, if their preferences lie towards things like green tea and especially jasmine,
Mm-hmm.
want to like get into some of the more like I don't know what the word is, some of the more classical loose leaf cultivars.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Baochong, which is a very lightly oxidized oolong tea.
I
Uh,
love
the
oolong.
most the most famous producer of it is Wenshan, which is in the Pinglin area of Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all getting into semantics. It's a very good tea. It can stand up to a pretty heavy brewing, so you don't need to like. It's not like one of those teas you cannot take your eyes off, or else it'll
Yeah,
like.
like it's time sensitive. It's not time
Yeah,
sensitive. Right. Oh man.
it's great
I
stuff.
I've just tried milk tea in Taiwan, but when I get back there, I'll definitely try some tea.
Yeah, the Maokong district where you have to like take the gondola up the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you can find tea there too.
Oh, absolutely. It's probably the best place like in Taipei proper if you want to take a tea tour.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from what is that one street? I forget. Yongkang. Yongkang has a lot of good tea shops.
Okay, man, I have to take this down. I have to remember. I have to take note of this. Oh
Yeah.
man, expanding this tea knowledge, and again, it's thousands of years of history when it comes to
Yeah,
tea,
for sure.
and these types of stories are really, really interesting for me, and one of the main reasons why I decided to have this podcast. Um, Not necessarily to talk to experts, but just for people who appreciate a good certain type of food or drink or whatever.
There you go.
Yeah. But do you have besides this knowledge of tea or food in general, do you have like a personal um like relationship when it comes to tea, just like what you had with fish or sea life in general?
Um, I
or
definitely
was it
tea has helped
just
me build a lot of friendships. Like I've met a lot of people through it, and it's helped me grow closer to a lot of my friends.
oh,
But as for that like really personal connection to it, I think that's just something I'm really building. It's something that I build whenever I sit down with a couple friends and like make a cup of tea for them because a lot of us we've just been on the bag stuff for so long, or we've been on milk tea that I really appreciate the opportunity to get to like brew just a pot of leaf juice for someone,
mm-hmm.
just that, just get your water temperature right, keep an eye on your timer, and you can make a really good cup of tea that's really special to someone.
Right, and you create these memories because of,
Yeah,
can we, can we have a cup of tea with just the two of us, something like that,
yeah,
instead of like, you want to go get coffee, you want to go get tea.
yep,
I mean,
yeah.
like I did mention it before in my previous podcast, like a lot of hearts are broken because over a cup of coffee. A lot of relationships started because of a cup of coffee.
There you go.
That also happens when
It's got a lot of power.
it.
Something, yeah, and there's like a lot of people, a lot of things people just don't really realize about tea. Like, I'm gonna just go off the path for a bit and like share a couple fun facts about
Mhm.
tea leaves. Lipton tea leaves and a lot of like the stuff that's in bags. It's basically just leaves that have been oxidized to like the breaking point, and then they just get ground into dust. And the point of that is to just get you a really strong cup that just brews in no time.
Mhm.
And if you have tea leaves that are like loose leaf and you still have the whole leaf in there, a
Mhm.
lot of people will just like toss that out after a couple infusions. But you can get like, I've had cups that go up to like, I've gotten 10 mugs out of a single like teaspoon of tea leaves.
Really?
Yeah.
It's to that powerful,
You just got to
huh?
respect your leaves. Yeah.
Yeah, and know your leaves because
Exactly.
you would know shit and what to do with it if you don't know anything about it. Plus, if knowing about these things and researching about this, again, it may sound so trivial or sound so like it's pretty much useless because you know what, you would think it's just a cup of tea, but then the benefits that you have and just having this knowledge of doing a certain type of dish or drink could create a lot of interesting conversations with interesting people,
Yes,
you
you
know?
can.
Yeah, you don't need to just talk about your work during a date. You can talk about how hot leaf juice is interesting.
There
That's
you
my
go.
take into it. Life is not just about work, Learn about your tea, learn about, I don't know, gardening or your food.
Yeah,
It helps a lot, and it makes you appreciate it even more.
it definitely helps to have something to like take your mind off stuff.
Hmm. And you have,
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes the best remedy to when you've read so much that your brain can't take anything else, go read about some other topic.
yeah.
Sounds
And,
counterproductive, but it works.
uh-huh. And at least you have a conversation starter, when you're meeting someone new and you're drinking a cup of tea.
Yeah.
That just don't sound douchey about it.
God, yeah. Like I'm never gonna shame someone for drinking a cup of milk tea or for like just plopping a bag of Lipton into their hot water.
Yeah, like
I'm
you
never gonna
drink
shame you for that.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just hope that people are also open-minded enough about it to try something new too.
Share, man. Not necessarily shame another person for drinking tea from Starbucks or somewhere.
I mean, I still do it.
Yeah, me
The
too.
green tea lemonade is my go-to,
For me, it's chai tea latte.
and
It's even a latte.
chai. I mean, yeah. There's a lot of linguistics that goes into the term chai milk tea latte,
Yeah, because chai is tea.
and latte is milk.
I don't know. It's Starbucks, what do
Yeah,
you know? But yeah, thank you so much, man. There's a lot of tea culture, tea knowledge that I've learned
yeah,
from this conversation. But again, what I didn't expect was a lot of in-depth knowledge when it comes to seafood. Again, I thought you just love fish so much, but not necessarily, when it comes to
Yeah,
food.
well, it comes with the territory.
Yeah, and yeah, I learned that one from you. So thank you so
Yeah,
much, man.
I've eaten some interesting fish, and I've also had a couple interesting fishes, part of my life as my pets. And if you think that is strange, just remember, fish eat fish. There's a whole lot of them out there. You can't just draw a line.
hmm Fish eat fish. Like if you don't eat fish, dude, the fish even eat fish.
Yeah. I mean, sure. Sure. Fish are friends, not food. It's fine for your goldfish or for your beta. I love betas, but you know, who's not gonna listen to that? The fish.
You're right. You're not gonna listen to a podcast.
But yeah, that's my last little nugget of wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
if you
Right.
can call it that.
Anyways, Paulo, if you could have any meal right now, right now, whether you tried it before or you haven't tried it, what would you
Takoyaki.
have? Takoyaki?
I miss there's if there's one thing I miss about the Philippines, it is that easy access to like such good like Asian food. Hot plate of takoyaki.
You say it, man, for real. I mean, I
I
have,
mean, yeah.
I mean, I could go to Los Angeles, but not over here.
And I know that Los Angeles has a great Koreatown,
hmm
and we have some pretty good Korean spots out here too.
hmm
But man, sometimes that teppanyaki man craving just hits you.
Right.
I miss Cebu so much.
hmm Takoyaki. Okay. For Paulo, it's takoyaki. All right. So where can they find you? Any interesting things that maybe people can look over for your Instagram or anything interesting coming up? Like, or you want to
Ye-
shout out for other?
you could find me on Instagram, yeah, marine biology.
hmm
It's like marine biology, but
But
with the
it's
word bay, which
Bay.
went out of style 3 years ago, and I'm too stubborn to change it.
Okay. Uh-huh. Any shout outs to anyone? No?
Um, I am very inactive on Instagram, but I recently resurfaced because I carved a jack-o'-lantern for the group I volunteer with in Oregon, the Cascades Raptor Center. So if you're ever in Oregon, come see some neat birds up at Cascades. Or we
Right.
have like 40 resident birds of prey, and they're all wonderful.
Okay, man. All
And we've
right.
got a couple of fish eaters too.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. Hold on. And